Hi, everyone. You're listening to Radio Cherry Bombe, and I'm your host, Carrie Diamond, coming to you from Las Vegas. I'm here to record a few podcast episodes as we are doing part 2 of last year's Vegas miniseries. I've been here for a few days and have had a great time. I'm staying at the beautiful Fontainebleau. I saw a Tears for Fears concert last night, explored the Arts District, and caught a burlesque revue at the Venetian starring today's guest, the delightful Dita Von Teese. Dita is known around the world as the Queen of Burlesque, but what folks might not realize is that she loves cooking, baking, and entertaining. She is also a smart entrepreneur with her own gin, Sweet Gwendolyn, and a namesake lingerie line, plus tons of collabs under her belt. Actually, I should probably say under her garter belt. Dita and I talk about her show at the Venetian, Las Vegas showgirl history, her love of solo dining, her mission to modernize burlesque, and her business acumen. But we start off the conversation with a chat about her fabulous kitchen, her beloved Aga stove, her lady cave, and her pool house turned English pub. It's a fun conversation with a woman who manages to be wildly glamorous and down to earth at the same time. Stay tuned for my chat with Dita Von Teese. Have you dreamed of visiting Las Vegas? Join me and Team Cherry Bombe on Friday, March 7th and Saturday, March 8th for a special series of events in Vegas. We're hosting a fun party in the Arts District at the acclaimed Velveteen Rabbit Bar. Think terrific cocktails and mocktails, tarot card readings, I will be first in line for that, and the city's best food trucks. Then Saturday at the Wynn, we have a special networking breakfast and panel conversations with some of the women shaking up the culinary scene. Then Saturday night, there's dinner at the brand new Gelina at the Venetian. Tickets are on sale at cherrybomb.com right now. You can buy tickets to the individual events or a weekend pass. We'd love to see you there. Today's episode is presented by Las Vegas. The city is a culinary playground where innovation, global flavors, and unforgettable experiences collide. From its vibrant food halls featuring renowned coast-to-coast eats to elevated fine dining concepts with world-renowned chefs, Las Vegas redefines gastronomic excellence. In 2025, Las Vegas continues to prove itself as a must-visit destination for food lovers, offering something extraordinary for every palate. There's Casa Playa at the Wynn, where Chef Sarah Thompson and her team create dishes inspired by coastal Mexico. Sarah was just named a James Beard Award semifinalist for Best Chef Southwest. Congratulations, Sarah. Pinkies by Vanderpump is a new concept from the former star of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills and restaurateur Lisa Vanderpump that opened at Flamingo, Las Vegas this past December. They offer distinctive dishes and statement cocktails that translate into Instagrammable moments for guests. You know, I love a little IG moment. And last but definitely not least, Cote, that's C-O-T-E, known for its dynamic fusion of Korean barbecue and American steakhouse, is set to open its first West Coast location at the Venetian Resort Las Vegas this summer. You've heard from Cote Beverage Director Victoria James on past episodes of our show, and you know she is the bomb. She and the team at Cote are crushing it, and I am sure this location is going to be very special. The Las Vegas culinary scene is clearly on a roll. Plan your visit at visitlasvegas.com. Now, let's check in with today's guest. Dita Von Teese, welcome to Radio Cherry Bombe.
Thank you.
Before we get started, I just wanted to ask, you have a beautiful home and so many friends in Los Angeles. I just wanted to see how things
yes.
are.
I mean, I'm very lucky. We had 2 different evacuation scares. One was like the Sunset Fire was getting close to the evacuation line where I live. And then we had one, I live near Griffith Park. And so we had one that was really just like, we could see it. That was pretty stressful, but they got it out quickly because it was just about, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And they were kind of on guard. So it just feels like madness in LA in a lot of ways. And it's very sad and distressing and stressful.
Well, I know how much you love Los Angeles, so I just
do,
wanted to say
yeah.
I'm sorry for you and what all your friends are going through.
It's really, it's unbelievable.
Well, we're going to talk about happier things. Folks, of course, know you best as the Queen of Burlesque, but for me, you are the kitchen decor queen. I know that's not what anyone else calls you. Can you describe the overall kitchen vibe for everybody?
Well, I have to say, first of all, I kind of have an old-fashioned kitchen. I live in a 1920s house, and a lot of these houses, when they come on the market, by now people have knocked out everything and made one big open area, like the dining room and the kitchen are the same. And I was like, thank God they didn't do that. It was one of the selling points for me was that, yes, it had been redone, of course, but it hadn't, no walls had been knocked out yet, no island in the middle. And I just like that. I like keeping the dining room separate from the kitchen. I like that it's kind of like old-fashioned in that way.
There's a spectacular Architectural Digest video
Yeah.
that everyone should watch on YouTube so they can see what we're talking about. I also can't help but notice your sweater is the same color as your stove.
I know, isn't that crazy? My stove is British racing green with copper accents. I'm not wearing any copper jewelry today, but that would have been a good idea.
Is that a favorite color? Why? It's a unique stove color.
I use a lot of green and teal in all of my decor. It's kind of my favorite color, really, is like the shades of greenish blue. I have vintage cars too, and 2 of those cars are green. So it's just the color I like. My stove is an Aga stove. I don't know if you know anything about cooking on an Aga. It's a cast iron stove that hasn't changed much in design. I mean, mine is an electric version. They've evolved over I don't know how old those stoves are, but it is also a totally different method of cooking. I believe it was like Julia Child always cooked on an Aga, but it's more like intuitive cooking. You don't set the temperature. You have 3 ovens. Some of them have 4 or 5 ovens, and each of those ovens is kept at a certain temperature. It's kind of like you have to know, oh, that's the baking oven, and things between this and that degrees go in there. And here's the roasting, and here's the slow cooking. It's a bit of a learning curve, and the whole method is that you start cooking things on the top, even if you're boiling some kind of stew, you start it on the top, but then you put it inside. All of the bottoms of each of the compartments are basically like simmering hot plates, so you can boil things inside, which makes it amazing. Like things come out really, really luscious. Like if you make slow cooked oatmeal or something in it overnight, it comes out amazing. I've never tasted anything like it. It's a really special stove. And there's things I love about it. There's things I hate about it. I'm a good cook, and I have never burned so many things in my life as when I first got that stove.
Learning curve.
I was like, ugh, ugh.
Did they have to send someone over to show you how to
They were
use
going to, and then I never collected on it because the pandemic happened, and I just kind of lost track of that. And I actually should contact them and say, like, I'm still up for that lesson. But I love my stove. It is beautiful, but it is a little bit tricky. But, if you think about it, it makes sense. You have 3 different ovens there, and you can bake something. You can cook all different things. Like, you can't do that if you just have, like, one.
No, you absolutely can't.
Yeah.
It must be a dream for something like Thanksgiving.
Yeah, exactly, because you can have all these things going at once.
And you love to entertain, which we'll talk about. Okay, so that's the stove. Aga, if you're listening, Dita's ready for her lesson.
I'm ready.
Now you have to explain the faucet to me. I have never seen a kitchen faucet that looked like that.
Oh my God. I'm trying to remember the brand. I can't even remember right now. But I just knew I wanted to do copper. And there was a little bit of a debate going in my household over whether it should be brass or copper. And I was really just like, no, everybody does brass. Let's do copper. I don't know. I guess
It's very tall and skinny. What's going on there?
I don't know. It's just kind of crazy. But I wish I could remember the brand, but it is like a heritage brand. And I kind of just thought it's really interesting, but it has all the same functions. Like the sprayer is just up high out of your way when you're using just the regular faucet. So you just pull down the sprayer. So it's actually really user-friendly. It's not an impractical, weird thing. It's just cool. I was like, why wouldn't we get that? It's cool.
I had the great fortune to visit Alice Waters in her home.
Mm-hmm.
And Alice is so true to everything she believes in and preaches and has no mod cons in her kitchen. Do you have a microwave?
Wow. I don't have a microwave.
You must have a dishwasher.
I do have a dishwasher, but half my china has to be hand washed. I have all that
I did see all those
Wedgwood and stuff. You know what I have is all these glasses from the 1940s with the decals on them. And if they go in the dishwasher once, it's over. It comes out a plain glass. There's a whole collection of times where people have put the 1940s pinup girl decal glass in there, and it comes out just like a plain beer glass. And I'm like, thanks a lot. But you know what? They're just vintage treasures. It's fine. So I'm always policing the dishwasher.
Do you at least find dishwashing meditative?
I do when I come home from Vegas or from traveling. Oh, I can't wait to just cook a simple, plain piece of fish and steam broccoli and then wash the dishes afterward.
We'll be right back with today's guest. We've got a lot going on at Cherry Bombe, and the best way to stay informed is to sign up for our free newsletter. You can sign up at cherrybombe.com or at the link in our show notes. Learn about any podcast guests you might have missed, our upcoming events, early bird ticket info, pop-ups, and cool food news. We send our main email every Friday. Did I see 2 chandeliers in the kitchen?
Yeah. But, I don't think that's very unusual. Maybe it's unusual because I will not allow any overhead recessed lighting in any house I live in.
It's a good rule
Absolutely
to live
not
by.
allowed. Lamps and chandeliers, sconces only. So there's 2 chandeliers and there's 2 big sconces.
And any other special features? What kind of fridge do you have?
Mm,
It's definitely not stainless steel. That much I
no,
know.
it has like the wood paneling over it to match, like where it looks like a cabinet. I can't remember
Oh,
what you
okay.
call that.
Yep.
Yeah,
And as you've told everybody now, you like to bake and cook.
I do. I especially like to bake because it's so satisfying. Everyone goes, ooh, look what you did, I have my specialties, the things that I cook all the time that I know are a sure thing.
Tell us a few of those.
Ina Garten, her saffron pot pie. It's like made with saffron and Pernod, although I put absinthe in it. So I make her pot pie. I make her cioppino.
Fish stew. Mhm.
Yeah, I love a fish stew. It's always impressive. I mean, those are like
I love
my
that you love
2.
Ina. We all love Ina.
Yeah, always when I see her recipes, I'm like, okay, I'm making that one. My thing lately has been cooking fish because I found a company that has mercury and microplastics tested fish. I usually cook vegetarian at home because I'm not really fond of handling meat and I'm very sensitive to animals. And I'm a flexitarian in life.
I live in Brooklyn, and I was in one of our, little grocery stores, and they had tuna that was marked with like low mercury and things like that. And I'd
Yeah.
never seen that in such big letters on a tuna
Yeah,
can
I
before.
mean, I hope this company that I've been ordering from, that you get like a delivery box, a subscription box. It's called Seatopia. I don't have any affiliation with them. I don't know. I just heard about it and tried it, and I really like it because it's so easy to have frozen fish in your freezer. And so when I come home from Vegas or London or wherever I am, I always have something there. All I have to do is go buy some vegetables and I can make a simple meal.
My only thing with fish is I don't like the smell sometimes. Really good fish doesn't usually smell.
Right.
But I love that cooking fish in paper.
That's what I do.
Papillote? Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I do mostly.
I love that
yeah.
technique.
Also, that company is all sushi grade too. So it's
Nice.
generally really good, really nice.
You don't even have to cook it that much.
No, yeah.
When did you start baking? As a kid?
God, that's a good question. Nobody's ever asked me that. I don't remember
You
being
don't do
like,
that many baking interviews.
No, I mean, not really. It's usually about like the show. I don't know. Maybe it was in my 20s. I feel like I always found it one of the incredible tools in the art of seduction.
Tell me more.
Baking a pie and taking it over. Like I always loved doing that. I think people always act surprised when they go, oh, you can cook? And I'm like, yeah, but what's the big deal? Like, why wouldn't I cook? It's just following directions and actually enjoying to do it. I'm very much like I follow recipes because I feel like I know people that they say they're intuitive cookers and then I'm like, oh, maybe you should have followed the recipe.
We did, in the next issue, we have a story on a cooking school in the south of France that is an intuitive cooking school. No recipes.
Oh my God. I mean, I get it and I admire people who can do it, but I just have too much fear of doing it.
Well, we have a lot of cookbook authors in our audience, and they will be so happy to hear that you love following a recipe.
No, I love it. I love it.
Do you have a cookbook collection?
Yeah, I do. I have some. Yeah, I have
you like
pretty
vintage
good ones. I
cookbooks,
have a
or-
few vintage ones, but you have to be careful with those vintage recipes. They can be pretty. One of my favorite is I have a thing called the calendar of salads. So I love to, when it's somebody's birthday, I go, "What's your birthday? Let's look up what your salad is." And it's from the 40s, and it's got some really
I can imagine.
vile things in it.
That's a really good point about vintage cookbooks. I own them more for inspiration and to just look at them and see how things have changed. Any modern folks?
Yeah, I definitely love, there's a few things. I do love, there's a nutritionist I follow called Kimberly Snyder, and I like her recipes for like really healthy vegan things that I can make at home. And then, do you know Debbie Mazar and her husband,
I
Under
love
the
Debbie.
Tuscan Gun? I have her cookbooks, of course, because she's a good friend of mine, and so I've made some things from her cookbooks. I have like an Alain Ducasse one from, I can't make anything in that. I'm really nostalgic for the Betty Crocker, because my mom had it, my grandma had it, everyone had it. So I have mine, of course. And I like to pull recipes out of magazines, food magazines, and I put them in my little binder. So I have a few binders full of things like that.
A few more things about the house. You have a secret woman cave. Not a
I
secret
do. It's
woman,
not
but
so
you have a
secret,
woman
but yeah.
cave that's
Yeah.
not so secret?
Well, I mean, it's not so secret anymore. I've taken people on tours through it. So, yeah, I mean, I called it a woman cave because I was kind of like, well, I have 2 different huge bookshelves, so a lot of my book collection is there. Like I have 2 libraries, essentially. I collect books, which is like the worst when you're trying to move house
That's
or
a
something.
problem.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I also collect vintage pinup art from the 1930s, 40s, and 50s. So I have a lot of my most important paintings there, so often along with the magazine that the image appeared on in the 40s. And so that's kind of there. So I just thought like, oh, it's kind of my woman cave because it's like my collections of things. I have Sid Charisse's ballet shoes. I have a Betty Grable corset and a Natalie Wood Gypsy Rose Lee outfit. So I keep all these things like, like a man would have his Babe Ruth baseball or whatever. I have all these like glamour items in cases. So I guess I figured it's kind of a woman cave because it's kind of my collections and it's dark and mysterious as well.
And you have a beautiful bar with all that vintage
Oh yeah,
glassware.
I love that. It has all the reverse painted glass on it and it lights up and I don't ever use it. I just had to have it. It was one of those things that I got a good job somewhere and I was like, I'm going to buy that thing I've always been lusting after.
And then you turned your pool house into an English pub.
I did.
Why an English pub versus, I don't know, like a vintage speakeasy or something?
Well, because I live in an English Tudor, so it made sense to me. And it was kind of like being used as a sauna, but it was just like spiders lived in there. So I thought like, let's. And so then we gutted it and we found like it had a great roof. Yeah, so we just turned it into a pub because I thought it's next to my pool. And that's, it's funny to have a pub. I started collecting like those little Toby jugs because my grandparents collected them.
What's a Toby jug?
Toby jugs are like those little face mugs, like English face mugs. And so now people send them to me as gifts. So like whenever I go on tour, people will bring me. They're like, this is with a little note in it, which I keep all the notes tucked inside the Toby jugs. But it's like, this was part of my grandmother's collection of Toby jugs. Or I think somebody sent me some where they said that their family lineage was like they were from
the faces.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting.
So it was pretty. It's nice. So
that's
it's
sweet.
just a funny, kitschy thing. I just had to. A tiki bar wouldn't make sense.
No, not on brand necessarily. So when folks walk in, what do you serve them? Do you have Guinness on tap?
I don't have that. I haven't gone that far. I have like I do more cocktails, I always collect like funny things too. I'm still looking for some crossed sword decor, but I love all that medieval 40s and 50s. It was popular
Real
to
pub
have
stuff.
all of this funny like, reproduction 50s style medieval decor. So I always pick that stuff up at flea markets. I have one that's got like where you keep a bottle and it's locked up. It's pretty great. I'm always looking for any kind of medieval style barware and things, which
watch out because people might
yeah.
start to bring
I
medieval
know, it's gonna be
barware
crazy.
to your shows. Your temporary home right now is Las Vegas. You've been working a lot here over the past year. Right now you have a revue at Voltaire, the theater at the Venetian, and it's been so much fun seeing billboards for you all around town. I love it. Tell us about the show and what it's all about.
Well, I first opened a version of the show like a year and a half ago in the beautiful Jubilee Theater, which was the last great showgirl theater, which is pretty special because it was, really those theaters were where they spent all of the money that there was to spend in entertainment. And there were things that came out of the floor and out of the ceiling. And it was really the last time that place could get used in that way because it's a tough room, It was a tough room. But we had to move because it was just, the room wasn't ready for a show. We had to bring in all the lighting. So the lighting rentals were a fortune every week. They need like $4 million renovation over there. So I basically we were all like, we need to find a new venue. Yeah, I moved over to the Venetian in this beautiful, beautiful room called the Voltaire. And it's a little more intimate than the other theater too, which is nice. It's very like cozy. I'm looking forward to seeing you there. I'm using some of the costumes from Jubilee, which were made by Bob Mackie famously and Pete Menefee. So those costumes hadn't been touched since they closed the show in 2016. And
I can't even imagine. I just have goosebumps.
Yeah.
What was it like for you? I mean,
it was
Bob
amazing.
Mackie is such a legend. Was such a legend.
Yeah. Well, they wanted me to do a show in that theater, and I was kind of looking at it going, I don't know. I love this place, and I said, where's the costumes? And they said, well, we have them downstairs. They're locked up. We haven't touched them. We don't know what to do with it.
So they weren't even like climate
They weren't
controlled
using it.
storage
No,
or,
nothing. And when I got there, I was sort of like, there was like a massive dried soap spill from a liquid soap dispenser. And it was like as big as this whole room. Cockroaches stuck to it. And I was very like, none of the costumes, they were in cabinets and things for the most part. But I was like, I have an idea of what we can do with this. it's going to be amazing. So that's how I managed to get those things used again. And they used them also for the Pam Anderson, The Last Showgirl movie, because I was doing the show at the time, and Gia Coppola came to ask me if they could hire some of my dancers, and they used some of the costumes.
Let's talk about that for a second, then we'll go back to your show, The Last Showgirl. Gia Coppola directed it, starring Pam Anderson, and it's gotten wonderful reviews.
I actually haven't seen it yet because
either.
there was supposed to be the big premiere at Grauman's Chinese, and it got canceled because of the fires, of course. So
I kind of want to see it here, though. I feel like Las Vegas is the perfect place to see it.
Yeah, I want to ask them for a screener because I'm going to want to pause it and be like, oh, there's so-and-so, there's so, because it's all my girls in it.
It'll probably be emotional for you.
Yeah, I mean, I read the script before they made the movie.
Because it was very much inspired by Jubilee.
Yeah, it was very inspired by Jubilee. I know that there's been people, even when I started doing the show with the Jubilee costumes, I came under fire from a lot of the real purist showgirl community, for putting men in feathers and for having women that were different body shapes than what showgirls were traditionally. And I was like, oh, I was actually pretty surprised to have in 2024 to have people, oh, the only people that should be wearing those costumes are 6-foot-tall ballerinas who weigh 115 pounds. I was sort of like, wow, I didn't expect to get that kind of criticism, to be honest.
Well,
and of course, I was happy to stand my ground on that. And I was like, go ahead and die on that hill. Enjoy.
Well, a big platform of yours has been reviving the art of burlesque and modernizing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because really, people talk about burlesque. It is empowering now. But, make no mistake, when you went to see a burlesque show in 1930 and 1940, when it was in its so-called golden age, it was like the equivalent of a strip club. It was a show on a legit stage, and you had great stars that came out of burlesque. It was racy, and it was looked down upon by people maybe in vaudeville or people in, different areas of entertainment. So it was not the empowering thing for women to do. It was all beneath the male gaze, and by the time you were 28 years old, you'd better get out. Even in Gypsy Rose Lee book, she talks about retiring herself young. I mean, she went on to do other things, she had a talk show and wrote books and the movie and all this kind of stuff. But really, as a woman in burlesque, you didn't want to, it's much different now. It's a completely different space than it was back then. So I'm very proud of the evolution of it and glad that I got to be part of it. And most of the audience for a burlesque show is going to be female and the LGBTQ community.
Is that what the audiences are?
Yeah, I'd say generally. Usually the men that are there, the heteronormative men are the husbands and boyfriends, and they don't really know where they're at. They're just like, okay, I'm happy to be here. And I always put just as many men in the show performing striptease as women because that's what I like. I like that it feels inclusive. Tick as many boxes as we can, and I want people to leave with their minds changed about what a burlesque show is.
Yeah, we were talking about the costumes. So you've got Bob Mackie pieces. You've also got haute couture. I know how much you've loved fashion. You've been amused to so many fashion designers. Tell us about the haute couture pieces.
Yeah, I mean, I've always felt like striptease and high fashion go together. I mean, Gypsy Rose Lee famously wore a Charles James, and there's always been a connection on dressing. If you're undressing, because where are you gonna go if you just walk out on the stage with nothing on? So all my Louboutins are all custom. I'm a good friend of Louboutin, so we always concoct interesting shoes and boots to go on stage. Jenny Packham, who's a famous British designer who dresses the royal family, she makes a lot of my costumes. I really enjoy working with her. And then there's other pieces that are by Michael Schmidt, who makes things for Cher and for Beyonce and everybody. Anyone that needs something with a rhinestone on it, they go to Michael Schmidt.
How far in advance do you have to plan for a show like this? I mean, not just costumes, hair, makeup, choreography, music.
I'm always still working on it. I'll tell you what. I was just working on other new wigs the other day. I'm always just trying to add new things into it. But I'd say when we started making this show, it was probably 3 months before. But it was also, I already had existing things, existing music that I had created and existing props and existing concepts. So it was really just organizing it all and bringing in a bigger team to put all of my life's work into one show. And that's what's special about this show as opposed to my tours or something is this is the only place in the world where I can bring this showgirl style to the stage and bring my life's work together into one show and have other dancers performing numbers that I do. So when you see the show tonight, you'll see almost everything is something that I did in the past.
It's like your version of Taylor Swift's Eras tour.
I guess so, except for it's not 4.5 hours long.
And you know Taylor, of course, because you
Yeah,
were in that.
yeah.
I love that song.
Yeah, it was great, a great experience.
Let's talk Vegas. The show looks so physically demanding. Do you go out when you have downtime in Vegas?
No. All of the dancers, many of them, well, actually, we have people that are from 20 years old and up to, 50s. And some of the older ones, they are out on the town. But me, I'm very I do my show, I do the little meet and greets, and then I'm very much wash all this stuff off and go to bed and wake up.
Do you have a strict routine that you follow?
I'd say, I don't know. It's not strict. It's just more of try to make sure I get as much sleep as I can.
Because you are like an athlete.
Yeah, I try to remind myself of that. Believe me, I go, oh, don't forget, this is your job.
I know you don't wear sneakers. Do you even own sneakers?
I do own sneakers because, I do my workouts, but I do like to wear flats during the day when I'm off.
Have you come here socially and just been able to run around and have fun?
Well, I just had 2 days off. We did a Wednesday show last night, and so I decided to stay for Monday. I had Monday and Tuesday off, which I normally go home. I go back to LA, even if it's for 2 or 3 days. So I went to see, I packed everything in. I was like, okay, restaurants that I wanted to go to, shows I want to see, everything I wanted to do, I packed into 2 days just now.
Any highlights?
Yeah, I went to see Awakening, which I've been wanting to see because the technology is so crazy. And we have a few of my former dancers that are in that show. It's very psychedelic. I don't know if everyone would call it psychedelic, but I certainly was like, this is psychedelic. But it's that big show at the Wynn. Anyway, I liked it.
Dancing and magic?
It's dancing and acrobats, and there are a few illusions in it that I really enjoyed. I also saw David Copperfield. That was pretty I don't know how he does that. I've seen Wayne Newton, which I really loved because I love Wayne Newton as a singer. I've listened to his music all the time, and so it was really fun to go see his show. I enjoyed that very much. His voice is not the same as it was, of course, but he has this incredible way of telling his life story and showing these clips. I was completely fascinated and entertained, and I loved every second of it.
Oh, I have to see him next time. I went and saw Tears for Fears last night.
Oh, fun.
They were so good.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
It's such an amazing time in terms of all the talent here. I mean, you must feel like you're in incredible company.
Yeah, I mean, I love being here, and I love that there's not another show like mine on the Strip. Shania Twain came to see our show recently, and the B-52s, who I also love, they were playing here, and I think they're coming back soon. Some of the band members of U2 came to see the show. I did the Sphere thing.
Oh, how was it? I'm dying to go to the Sphere.
Yeah,
How was it?
I didn't see the movie yet, but I did see U2 there, so it was great, And I also saw David Blaine is amazing. I saw him, I don't know, a couple months ago, because, he's not always here because he can only do a certain number of dates. But talk about some incredible... I mean, you can't even really call it illusions and magic because it's not. A lot of it is totally real body training. It's very impressive.
Okay, you've given me a lot to add to my list. I never have enough time when I'm here.
I know. I feel the same way, especially because it's there's no afternoon shows.
Are you a big restaurant fan? Do you go to restaurants much?
Yeah, I mean, I don't that much when I'm here because, I eat at the Venetian because I'm practically living there. So I have my favorite places, which are great. Milo's is really great. It's a great
I love
fish.
Milo's.
Oh, my God. That's my go-to.
How do you not get all the dips, or do you?
I usually don't. My thing is I love the green salad. They have a really good green salad with that amazing.
Dita Von Teese wants you to come to Vegas and eat green salad.
No, it's great though. It's got it's got cheese in it, and then I get a nice piece of fish. I also like Jelena that just opened up, and so I'm a big fan of that.
I thought that was a fun thing to open up in Vegas.
Yeah, and I go to Bouchon for brunch sometimes when I have somebody visiting. I'll go there.
You have a lot of options.
I stay at the Venetian. Yeah, because since I'm here, it's so easy to walk around, and I do love to walk over to the Wynn as well. And I like going to Tableau for brunch.
Have you been to Delilah's?
Yeah, that's where I was just there the other night,
yeah.
And it's great. That's always a place to go when you're,
Yeah, Delilah's is so beautiful.
It's fun.
And you should sneak in a visit to Casa Playa.
Oh.
Their Mexican restaurant. They've got a wonderful female chef, Chef Sarah, beautiful food.
Yeah, I have to check that.
A lot of girl power over at the Wynn, which I'm always
indeed.
happy about. Do you go off the Strip much? There's such an exciting off the Strip moment now.
I mean, I do. I went and had an omakase that one of my friends gifted me a gift certificate, and I went by myself the other night. It was one of my things I did on my night off is, you have to make an appointment, and I just went by myself, and it was so nice.
A lot of women are afraid to eat by themselves.
Oh, no, I do it all the time. I love it. I love just being
Did you always love that?
I always have. for as long as I've been an adult, been like, I'm going to go take myself out to dinner right now. It's nice to be with girlfriends or whatever, but like, what are you waiting for? And especially if you're going somewhere that's maybe hard to get into or is more expensive than you would want to spend and also what's more satisfying than getting the check and just having like, yep, just sign it instead of having, when you have like a big group dinner and one person had 75 drinks and and you just had water and you're like, oh, I should have had caviar. So I love going out to dinner by myself and not having to like,
So just do it.
just
Be fearless.
go. Yeah. Like, and also you can get amazing tables places. And I think people really, they don't ever go, oh, poor you. They're like, good for you. Take yourself out. Why not?
Good for you. Remember that, ladies. And have you been to the Writer's Block, the bookstore here in Vegas?
No.
Vegas has one of the best bookstores in the country.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh my
I was
God.
shocked when I walked in.
Wow. Okay. I should go look.
And they
I
would
don't
love
need any
you.
more books.
Oh
Oh
my
my
gosh.
God.
I know.
I'm crazy with the
That's right. You
books.
mentioned your book problem.
Oh my
I'm sorry.
God.
We all
I
have a book problem.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Anyway, Writer's Block. You will love it.
Okay.
When did you first start coming to Vegas?
In the 90s. And
Yeah.
I mean, I saw James Brown play here, like amazing. Like sometimes I think about how Vegas was in the 90s and it was so gritty and like very fear and loathing in Las Vegas.
It's changed so much.
Yeah. The thing I miss the most in Vegas that I remember from back then are, you used to go to the casino and you'd see those ladies with the blue or green eyeshadow and the beauty mark drawn on and the red lipstick smoking with the cigarette holder and the red nails putting in the bouffant hairdo. You don't have that anymore.
No.
Those ladies are all extinct.
No, you don't see that. I do appreciate, though, when people dress up. People must
Yeah.
really dress up for your
They
show.
really
I'm
dress
guessing.
up for the show,
Yeah.
generally.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous that I did not pack anything
Oh, but don't
dressy
be, because
enough.
it's kind of fine. It's always fine.
I'm going to do my best. When did you get into burlesque?
In the early 90s, like 91, 92, I had the idea of being a pinup girl. I was like, oh, I should be like a modern Betty Page and creating, pinup photos. And then I was like, I should dress like this when I do a show. And I was working in the rave scene in 1991. I met lots of drag queens and club kids, and I was a go-go dancer, and I did a performance art piece. And my boyfriend, he was the biggest rave promoter at that time, and he brought me to a strip club, and I was like, oh, these girls are making tons of money, more than my $75 shift fee that more than what I make go-go dancing. Yeah, and I was kind of like, I should try this out for a while. So I started working in a strip club, and I was like, oh, I'm going to wear my vintage style clothes, my corsets, and it started there, and it just kind of like snowballed into something bigger. Like I started performing at parties in Los Angeles and London, and I was modeling at the same time for like the Playboy newsstand specials and magazines. So I kind of just like built this. I just kept growing and growing. And in 2002, I was performing as a guest star with the Pussycat Dolls. And that was like a show that they had like Christina Aguilera and Christina Applegate and Charlize Theron and all of these, Gwen Stefani, all these stars as guest stars. And I was doing my martini glass act. And I got a lot of recognition from that. And then I was on the cover of Playboy when Playboy was kind of still a thing where people knew who was on the cover, like celebrities, actresses were on the cover. So it was kind of like my turning point was in 2002. And then the fashion brands started hiring me for things, Louis Vuitton, Chopard, Marc Jacobs. So I kind of had like a moment there in the early 2000s.
And now you're the Queen of Burlesque.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it's like a funny little lightning strikes thing. Like, I wanted to be a ballet dancer, but I was just never good enough. I didn't have the right training. There wasn't a ballet school where I lived in a small town in Michigan. So I just did my best, but worked out.
I want to talk about you as an entrepreneur because folks might not realize how entrepreneurial you are. Were you always like this? Were you the kid with the lemonade stand?
I did have a lemonade stand. In the early 90s when I was a young fetish model stripper, I always had a fax machine with a fake name and so I kind of acted as my fake manager, which was, so that was...
That's smart.
Yeah, it was just like nobody's going to know and nobody knows better than I do of how much I want to make and what I need to do what I want to do.
Sure. All of you out there who, how many DMs and texts and emails I get from folks in our community who are like, I want an agent, I want a manager. Maybe fake it.
Yeah, just be smart. I would say my best advice is you just need an attorney. You need an attorney to look at your deals, or to tell me when you should ask for more and the things to ask for. They don't want me to like speak badly of agents and managers. I've had many, many of them, but really the attorney is where it's at.
I do love the idea, though, in the beginning, if you're, trying to establish yourself, saying, oh, could you talk to my agent, and then
Totally.
send a fake email.
Yeah, I had a fake name. I loved it.
That's great. But maybe don't impersonate lawyers. That there might be laws against that.
Don't do that. Yeah.
You have your own gin today, Sweet Gwendolyn French Gin. How did that come about?
Well, I was approached by a gentleman named Larry who had done something with helping create
He has a good track record.
Brand. Yeah, he has a great track record. So he approached me with this idea, and I was like, yeah, this is my world. Like the art of John Willie, I've always cited it as one of my biggest influences of my street style, or how I like to dress, like the Sweet Gwendolyn John Willie drawings.
Tell us about John Willie a little bit.
John Willie was an artist, 1940s and 50s fetish art. And it was all a little bit with a sense of humor as well, but really amazing work. I just loved the women that he drew. They were very like powerful and lots of long leather gloves. And he would draw these crazy like leather footwear and costumes. And I just, fell in love with him as an artist. And so when I was approached about doing this gin based on the art, I was like, oh, yeah, you can't do this with anybody but me.
You hit all your sweet spots.
Yes.
And he is sort of your muse for this, right?
The John Willie. Yeah.
What is a French gin versus a regular gin?
Well, it's distilled in France. Okay. It is distilled in France, like the gin was.
That makes sense,
I'm not even a gin person. So when I was approached about this, I thought, gin. I don't know. I'm not a gin person. He's like, just try it. And we did like a tasting to choose it, and it's a little bit like choosing perfume. And I just fell in love with this gin. I was like, I did not like gin until I tried this, and it's just so. It's like fig infused with a little touch of like white wine infusion. It's not sweet. It's just like perfumed beautifully. So I fell in love with that gin, and I was like, all right, I guess I'm a gin drinker now because this changed my mind.
I love a gin and tonic.
Yeah, and it's distilled in France and bottled in New Orleans. Yeah, it's all based on, like on the bottle, you'll see some of the imagery of John Willie.
That's fun lineage.
Yeah.
Made in France, bottled in New Orleans.
Exactly.
I heard there's some special Dita cocktails with Sweet Gwendolyn that we can try tonight.
There's a few, but the star is the Von Teese, I think. And it's kind of based on a cocktail that I did when I was the brand ambassador for Cointreau. It's infused with violet, and it's very beautiful with a beautiful flower on it and everything. It's a very fancy cocktail, but we have a lot of options. And I really love drinking Sweet Gwendolyn just simply like as a martini, but if you like a sweeter drink, the Von Teese would be great.
And you have a mixologist friend who's helped out with some of these, right?
My friend, she's one of my best friends. Her name's Danielle Motor, and she works for Sweet Gwendolyn, and so she created these cocktails that are on the Voltaire menu. So I like having my friends involved in things like this.
I know you're very loyal.
I am, yeah.
Yes, which is a wonderful quality. What are your plans for Sweet Gwendolyn?
We're working on getting it into England because I'm opening a show there too. And I'm like, we have to have my drink on the menu there. So it's not going to be easy to get this gin from France into England where they, are the gin capital of the world, right?
Yeah.
So we're working on that.
When will you be in London?
Yeah, I'm working on opening a show there called Diamonds and Dust. My friend who has been in my touring shows for a long time, her name's Tosca Rivola. During the pandemic, she created this show. Well, she had created it before and was performing it in LA in a small venue there. She got a lot of traction on it. And then during the pandemic, she has a marketing degree, she rustled up the investment for this show to open in the West End. So it's like a new venue, everything. I was just there, looking at the space, which is, being gutted as we speak and redesigned. And it's a big job, but I'm excited about it. So I agreed to come in and co-direct with her. And also I'll perform in it like once a month. And it's kind of like a Dita Von Teese presents. So it's my first foray really into like stepping back a little bit and just being more of the director. But, of course, it started off as me just kind of directing it. But now here I am like, we need you to perform in it. And I was like, you do? Okay, it's good to be wanted. It's good to be wanted.
It's always
needed.
Good to be wanted. Well, that sounds really exciting. Any thoughts on an opening date? Or
Oh, yeah. There's a soft opening that's meant to be in June. And then like the real opening would be like the first week of July, I think.
So exciting. London's going to lose their minds.
Yeah, I think it's great. It's in a great location. And
the West End.
Yeah,
that's thrilling.
Yeah.
Okay, you also design your own namesake lingerie line. Yeah. Everything is so beautiful and sexy.
Thank you.
How did that come about?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a while now. It's like 15 years of collaboration. And I was approached by an Australian parent company about creating this brand. And of course, I was thrilled. And it was actually like I don't know, three like billionaire brothers who invested in this brand. And it was very exciting. We did fashion shows and everything. It was always size inclusive and like meant to be beautiful lingerie to wear under your clothes all the time. So we did all these things. And then one day they like folded the company, and the women, my like CEO and the people that I was directly working with, we basically like saved the brand ourselves quickly. You're like, wait, but the brand is doing really well. And it was in Bloomingdale's and Nordstrom and big retailers all across Australia. So we basically picked it back up, and it was no small feat to do that because it's actually quite difficult when you have all this floor space in big department stores and suddenly you don't have anything to send them. But we redid everything, restructured everything, and it's been back and it's been very strong. And actually, interestingly, at the same time with all of these big retailers kind of not having space there anymore, the pandemic happened, and suddenly all of the mom and pop lingerie stores were killing it. They buy more product from me than any department stores anymore. It's amazing, and I'm very happy about that because there's more of like warmth in it. You have like people do unboxings, people try it on now. Suddenly you have people at home, that are like, I'm not going to be afraid to take a picture of myself wearing my lingerie, and everything shifted.
I actually always wanted to do a post on Instagram thanking those women who are willing to do the bra try-ons because the rest of us benefit so much.
Yeah.
And they sometimes take a little grief in the comments.
Right.
And I'm
yeah,
like, thank
yeah.
God for all of you.
Yeah. It's just like been a phenomenon. And I just think it's changed the way lingerie is sold and people feel. And
Because
of course,
it's so personal. And you get to see, oh, her body looks a little bit like mine.
Yeah.
Maybe this would fit me. But anyway, if you want something a little sexy in your life, you should go visit.
Yeah,
and what's is it Dita Von
It's
Teese?
Dita
Is that
Von
the
Teese
URL?
lingerie. Yeah. And I have a lot of things are on my Instagram. It's just at Dita Von Teese. It's spelled with 2 E's in case anyone doesn't know. I have my own website and everything. And I love lingerie. It's really what sparked everything in my career. Posing for pinups. I was always trying to create places where I could wear my lingerie, pinup photos, the stage. I think lingerie is it's very like symbolic of womanhood and femininity for me. And that's one of the things I loved about it. I grew up always wondering, what the hell is this my mom wearing underneath her clothes? And looking in the lingerie drawer, like, what is this? I used to steal her bras. I actually have one still, like a Fredericks of Hollywood, like open bra. I still like, Mom, I stole this from you when I was little.
Does she know this?
Yeah, I've showed it to her.
It's so funny that you say that because you really have, in such a magical way, created this whole world. What is it about you that enabled you to do this?
I think, when I look back on my thought process, I never had like a goal, or I didn't have anyone in front of me to try to say, I'm going to be like her, unless it was like, I'm going to be the modern Gypsy Rose Lee, or I'm going to be the modern Betty Page. Like, there was nobody alive, really, that I was like, I'm going to be like her. I think I just did what I did because it was fun, and then the rewards came. I never was like, I'm going to be famous for this, or I'm going to have a show in Vegas. I've never written down a goal. I've never been like that. I always just stay grateful for what I'm doing and work with integrity. If you enjoy what you're doing, the payoff is already there anyway, right? So if you have success and you have accolades, if people say it's great, or if you make money doing it, that's the extra bonus. So I don't know, I guess maybe it's just, I think I'm pretty lucky, but I also just feel like when I did have a little bit of recognition in the world and other people said, well, you should go be an actress now, or can you sing? And I was like, no, I did all of this to be the greatest burlesque star since Gypsy Rose Lee. I didn't do all of this. It wasn't a stepping stone. This is like what I really love. All of my projects, they're all connected to this one thing, which is like being a burlesque star, changing people's minds about striptease, redoing something that was done in the past, but in a new way. My books, my lingerie, everything is, I think, connected to that.
That's a beautiful reminder that you don't have to move on to other things. Like
No,
if
it
there's
doesn't.
something that you love so much, to be able to stay
Yeah.
in there and just practice
Yeah.
it deeply.
And certainly, like my entire adult life since I was, 25, people have been scaring me about age, or like, well, what are you going to do? You can't be a stripper when you're 50. And I'm like, I mean, I didn't expect to be doing this. And if you would have told my 25-year-old self or my 35 or 45-year-old self, I would never have believed that I could be leading a Vegas show. And in fact, I've said before to like my bosses, I've been like, do you guys see a world where like maybe this show could live on, where I don't have to be in it. Like I could just be directing it another day. And they're like, no. I'm like, well, again, it goes back to like, it's good to be wanted. Like it'd be terrible if they were talking about me like they need to get me out of there and put somebody younger in, like The Substance. You know what I mean? Like, and
Right.
it's a
I'm too
special
afraid
feeling to be like, oh, you're afraid
I'm
to
too
watch it.
afraid to watch The Substance. Have
I
you
was
watched
too.
it?
I watched it. Yeah.
Oh, should I watch it?
I think you should. You have to look at all of the gore and that part of it as like they needed that to prove the point of how hardcore it is.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like at first, I don't like gory movies, but I felt like there was a reason behind that. You know, I stopped it halfway while I was watching. I was like, this has got to be a French director. Because I'm good friends with Gaspar Noé, who did like Irreversible and all these like outrageously like, and I stopped it and I was like, yep, French director. And I think they know each other. You know, it's like such
Oh,
a,
that's funny.
and then I met the director
I'm the
during the
same.
Golden Globes. It's pretty hardcore, but yeah.
I can't watch gory. But
I know I can't either, but you
I'll do
kind
it.
of do.
Yeah,
And you,
I feel like it's an important message. I
yeah,
do. I know
and
I need to watch
it expresses the intensity of the
Okay.
feelings, I think.
Are you good at trusting your gut?
No, I'm super indecisive. I'm always afraid of like second guessing or going like, I don't know if I made the right decision. I'm not good at trusting my gut.
How do you make decisions then?
Pros and cons lists. I'm totally like a.
Do you really?
I will pull out a piece of paper and make that pro and con list. Yeah,
Okay.
that's the only thing. Or sometimes I just go, fuck it. What's the worst that can happen? Let's just do it. You know, like, I don't know.
I was going to ask you for some advice, but I don't think it gets better than that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I just,
What's
yeah.
the worst that can happen?
What's the worst can happen? You know, or like, what is it that Mae West? Oh, I always try the thing that I haven't tried before or whatever, the Mae West coat. What would Mae West do?
Okay, last question. If you had to plan a fun night on the town in Las Vegas, where would you go? And if you could bring anyone, living or not, along with you, who would you bring?
Okay, so are we saying that like the time doesn't matter?
You could
We're
pick
time traveling?
You can time travel.
I mean, for sure, I would have loved to just visit all of the old showgirl revues in like the 50s, 60s, even the 70s. That's what I would want to do. And there's a show here that I would have loved to have seen called Les Poupées de Paris. And it was like a marionette show, and it was Sid and Marty Krofft, and it was amazing. And like there was like a Mae West puppet and all these dancing girl puppets. I would kill to see that show.
Is there footage of it?
There's like a little bit of footage and photos. I think you can see pictures of like Mae West with her puppet or like Liberace with his puppet. So a sexy marionette show, that sounds amazing. Like I love things that make me like cry with laughter. They're so kitschy and like to me it seems so novel now, especially when all this technology is everywhere and people are like achieving the greatest stunt work they can do. It just becomes like you see it so much that it doesn't, you know, I actually kind of refused to have any aerial stuff in my show because I was kind of like, that's where you go to that show to see that. This is where you come to see glamour, feathers, and rhinestones and personality and sensuality. And it's just, for me, I had to take a stand in this era where everything is so like high tech and
all AI.
I like the lo-fi. I'm super amused.
I love that. And I think a lot of us love that about you. Well, Dita, this has been so much fun. You are the bomb, 100%.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm looking forward to seeing you tonight and seeing what you think of the show.
That's it for today's show. Don't forget, we'll be in Vegas on March 7th and 8th for a special series of events. Snag your ticket or weekend pass at cherrybombe.com. And maybe you can even check out Dita's show while you're in town. Our theme song is by the band Tra La La. Thank you to Sticky Paws Studio in Las Vegas and Newsstand Studios at Rockefeller Center in New York City. Our producers are Catherine Baker and Jenna Sadu, and our editorial coordinator is Sophie Kais. Thanks for listening, everybody. You're the bomb.